Hello, Mila. This is my dear friend Mila, and welcome to Imaginal Realms. I'm gonna just briefly share about her and what she does and a little bit of who she is, but you can also dive deep because I'll put all the notes and info in the show notes, the podcast notes. So basically, Mila is not only a dear friend, but she is a mystic and she works one on one with people in retreats and in person. The way that you described it, Mila, is that it's based in deep remembrance, which I feel a lot of us who are offering healing or mentoring or any of these kind of services, it's really awakening what we already know and helping see what is maybe in our way that we can't access. And so my own experience with Mila is that not only an amazing guide, amazing teacher, and for those who work with mentor, she's also a muse. And so it was interesting. So, I'm launching this course, Amanita Dream Temple, Awakening the Sleeping Dream. And it's all about, the course is all about connecting to our dreamer self, the dreamer, the one who is sleeping, yet we know is us. We say, I dreamt, or I had this experience. And so it's funny because that dreamer self communicates in symbols and images. And even just as I was thinking, like, how do I want to describe Mila? There's how she puts on her website or whatever, and then how do I want to describe her? And I felt like my dreamer self was giving me all these images and experiences of muse, of when I just recently last year experienced muse. And I was like, wow, my dreamer self is already coming in to communicate, and it's communicating in the language of dream. And it's introducing Mila, it's introducing you with that essence and with that muse energy. So I just thought that was really cool. I was like, this is a perfect way to start this conversation. Before we get totally into it, the intention behind the Imaginal Realms podcast, calling it Imaginal Realms, is to really explore and understand and ask, questions and just have more conversations about what it is, what is the Imaginal Realms, what is it, but also to really expand the way we dream life. And, even though you're my friend, even if you weren't my friend, I would find that the way you dream your life and how it comes to fruition as an observer is very much an embodiment of the Imaginal Realms and my point of interest and inquiry and exploration. And I also feel that you just have such a unique way that you do it. And so if you would be open to just asking your heart mind, what comes to you when I ask, what does the Imaginal Realms mean to you?
Mm. Mm. Thank you. The first thing that comes to me is this bridge between the unconscious, the subconscious, and the conscious. So pretty much the full spectrum of consciousness with its multiple layers, and being awake in the wakefulness of it, in connection with it, in intimacy with it. So to me, the imaginal realms are this access point to deeper state of my psyche, of my own psyche, of the collective psyche, because it's one and the same simultaneously, and it's this deeper knowing and remembrance. You mentioned this word remembrance, deeper remembrance of my essence and communion with source, with infinite, with all that is. And yes, it's a whole other round that in a way it's not separate from this so appeared physical reality. They're interwoven in the tapestry of life, and they coexist together. And there's just a deeper intimacy that occurs, I suppose, when I'm connected with this other realm that is so not seen with the first senses, but it's seen with, like to call the third eye is also the first eye, the
Ooh, I love
one
that. I
eye.
love that. Yep.
Yes, so yeah, this
Do
is
you,
just to put into words the unspeakable.
it's true. Do you feel that the imaginal realm, I mean, I feel like you kind of spoke to it, but I just want to go a little deeper. And do you do you have an idea of where it exists? Like, where does it exist, or does it? I don't have an answer. I'm just curious, like your thoughts on that.
I mean, to me, it feels like it's all encompassing.
Yeah.
It's all around. Yes, when I tap into it, it feels like it's all around me. It's the ethers and beyond. Just it's ever prevailing. It's to me the imaginary realm is this oneness with um, the realm of creation, the realm of what creates this reality and beyond. All the realities we imagine, they're just as real because we imagine them. So in ways we live them as we imagine them. And that's the multidimensionality of our being. It is in multiple different realities. I've been referring to this movie lately. I don't know if you've seen it, Everything Everywhere All at Once.
I know it. I haven't watched it yet.
It's a wild movie, but pretty much it shows just this different dimension in a way our psyche, our awareness can abide in, and simultaneously it can collapse all into so-called this waking dream. But we are simultaneously connected on all these, you can call it past lives, but then they can also be happening simultaneously as this life. And this is what also our dream state, our dreams when we sleep can feel just as real as this waking reality. And who is to say which one is more real than the other? Okay.
Exactly. I mean, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, thank you. So, one of the reasons why I also wanted to talk to Mila today was because not only because of what you just heard, because that's a truth and a live in real time living experience and consciousness that Mila embodies, and Mila also took the last course I did, which was Imaginal Journeying into Amanita Dreams. Prior to the course, Mila has had a lot of experience actually with Amanita and dreaming, and so I really wanted to kind of go back in time, go back into that time, and just whatever you're comfortable sharing, about your, first meeting with Amanita, what that was like, what your experience was, and then after that, when you started to work more, I feel like you're intentional with everything, but I don't know the right word, but where you started to really work with Amanita, I felt like you were consistent, and then what resulted from there. So I can kind of ask some questions too along the way if it's helped, but yeah, just if you can share where you started with Amanita and why too.
Yes, thank you. Well, first of all, thanks to you. I'm so grateful for because it was really you and Billy,
Mm.
your beloved, that brought Amanita into my life. She was kind of already in my field. I call her she. I don't know, has like a
You're not
feminine
alone with
energy, but I
that.
just keep
I
calling her
don't,
she.
but you do, but many people do, and it's fine.
Well, maybe
I
it's
think
just
it's
the
great.
name and just the feel.
Hmm.
So Amanita was already in my field, and it was you two, and it was right after my birthday. It was close to the winter solstice, or a little bit before, and that's the time, right, when Amanita is the time to forage the Amanita. And I believe it was 2.5 years ago.
Yes.
And yes, and I came and visited you in Mendocino, and you brought me to this fairy forest land that
I have like
it was
goosebumps.
just, yes, right. I felt like Alice in Wonderland, just walking
Hmm.
around, and there were just so many of them, and some of them were bigger than my head. There was
Totally.
just, it was totally a dream realm space. It was one of the most magical things I have witnessed. I mean, if you see Amanita in person, especially when it's so big, it's this red with white dots. It totally looks like out of a fairy tale. And we foraged like a lot, a big amount.
Yes.
And I went through the drying process, and this is when I started taking it. Like I started taking it in a tea form. Um, and
Do you mind if
yeah.
interrupt for a sec? So you dried it, and then were you breaking off little pieces into the tea?
Yeah, I was kind of waiting. Like, I think I can't remember if it was at first. I think I was waiting it to kind of be more precise, but then at some point, yeah, I kind of had an idea of how much and to put into tea. And just to say, the first couple times I shared it with friends and kind of overdosed on it, took too big of an amount, which
Hmm.
really you don't need to do that, and it's not helpful, and you don't get more benefit of it. Um, Microdosing with Amanita, I believe, is the way to go.
I think so
Um,
too.
which, yeah, when I took a too big of an amount, it was more like a sense of kind of, I was like drunk feeling, but not like the fun drunk when the room is spinning. And anyway, so yes, I was working with it for pretty consistently with the dried mushrooms and making it into a tea. And my dream realm state completely shifted. I normally will take it at nighttime. There was a couple times I took it during the day, and I felt this like slight euphoric,
Hmm.
beautiful, just very sweet sensation in my being. But my intention was to work with my dreams, because I knew that that's one of Amanita's magic ways of what she can guide us in our dream state. And I already have pretty active dream state, and I've always been very fascinated by my dreams. But for the most part of my life, my dreams have been very much shadow work, meaning a lot of my subconscious fears come up in my dreams, and I get to experience them in the dream state, and I get to
Hmm.
play them out, which is so much of what also I feel in just daily existence for me. It is this notion about facing your fears and being able to transform, alchemize, and liberate, come through the other side of the deeper teachings and wisdoms. But what changed with Amanita and my dream state is my dreams became way more intuitive. Like there was a magical
Mm.
intuitive quality that was brought into my dreams that yeah they started
It,
transforming from being like more of the darker fearful aspect and to just more, I guess, empowered magical states. Like I've had dreams of like I remember this one dream, and it was definitely during the yeah when I started taking the Amanita, but I had this huge boa snake kind of
nice.
following me around whatever I was doing in the dream. She was kind of like a guide constantly around me, and it felt like a guardian and this
Ooh.
powerful energy. And I've had quite a few snake dreams actually ever since. The serpent's been just a powerful transformer symbolism for me. And yes, and then I started noticing how whatever I was dreaming, there was like a certain thread in my waking state, that something from my dream may show up in my waking reality in a way that I could um I could connect to. So my dreams they started feeling very guided.
Can I ask you about that
Right.
actually?
Mm-hmm.
This thread, I love that you just brought that up because one of the things when I was teaching people to journey was that they would compare it to a guided meditation. And what I think you just landed on there, Mila, is something that I think is really important about knowing that the dreamer self is real and the dream is real.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that and that you get proof that you actually went somewhere and something happened because it presents itself in real time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I realized about, doing oracle sessions, but also my own journey work was that I would literally something from the journey would present itself in three-dimensional realm. And I love the way that you just spoke to it because again, I feel like that thread, the thread of the dream would come into waking life.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a very important key because for those who want proof,
Mm-hmm.
I feel that it gives, is it the left brain? It feels like it gives that practical, like needing proof.
Mm-hmm.
And then another question I would have that, and I want to keep letting you speak is, do you feel that this thread that weaves into waking life shows up in the form of how we would describe a synchronicity?
Absolutely.
Okay, so
Absolutely.
keep going.
Yes, the synchronicities and how that thread it really shows that the sleep and the so-called waking, they're completely interconnected. And and that's why I have been really fascinated with the dreams realm and I like to remember my dreams. When I don't, I feel, oh, what did I do last night? What happened? Like I feel there's such guiding stars for my
Mm,
next day and my waking reality, and just deeper awareness of what are the patterns that are currently present for me. Like again, the subconscious, the unconscious, and really just this deeper fine attunement to knowing what is here for me in this moment of time and to tap into the guidance that is also here for me, to utilize it as best as I can to again transform, alchemize, grow into this version of myself that is like in deep connection with all life, which is me. So the guidance in my dreams just started becoming like more and more louder, to the points where I was, guided to move to a different place to live, and it came in so strong. And then all this synchronicity in my waking reality started like really all of a sudden pointing to that place. Um,
And
gosh,
now you are in that place.
and now I am in that place. Yes.
And I wanted to have a moment and say that when Mila lived somewhere else and we were sharing, and she was sharing what the dreams that, you were working with Amanita and these dreams were blooming. I like to call them blooming because it's almost like a flowering tea where you add the water and the flower blooms. I feel like that's what the Amanita does to our dream.
Mm.
It like you add it in and then it blooms. It's already there. It just adds that ingredient to activate it. But I remember being in the message in the call or whatever about those dreams, and then this is a really important thing that you're saying too. There's two things I want to say that I love. One is, before we started to record, Mila and I were talking about a person that was like really her only mentor in life, and in this day and age, people have a lot of teachers, there's a lot of teachings, there's a lot of people transmitting messages, which is amazing. And it actually takes a lot of trust in the self and in the instrument, I think, to not partake in all of that, and to really hone your own guidance system, which is why I'm also doing these courses to really, get the tools so that you don't need a human teacher, because you're the human teacher. And so you're speaking to these things. If you can speak to why do you think that the guidance got stronger, and how were you able to discern it? Because I feel like you were giving it attention and trusting it, but maybe you could kind of flesh out a little bit how that looked to you, like how you really started to be able to trust the guidance.
Mm. Mm. Well, in general, I feel I naturally live my life from this deeper space of following the nudges, the synchronicities, intuition, heart, whatever you want to call it, that comes in all these different variations. Um, so this naturally comes to me to follow what comes up in my field, and then my body feels it, and then I just kind of act on it. It's a natural way, yet there are dimensions to it where, with again the dreams and with Amanita, started bringing like more of, I guess, really strengthening that
Yeah.
quality within me. And so I don't know if my perception was kind of more clear in a way, if more veils were just removed for my connection, with source, with this realm, the unseen realm, and my own intuition, that it feels it's inseparable from life, and source and the divine, just strengthening really, and then being able to be shown in ways that can appear quite magical and mystical, and it was actually awakening more of my inner child. That's a big one.
Ooh, I
Actually, my
love that.
inner child coming more alive.
I
That was a prayer I've had for a while.
and that is so true. And actually, just as a little side note, Mila and I were taking Amanita at the same time when we first started after that one foraging trip, and her and I went to a fair. We went to
Right. That was in the
the country
beginning
fair,
when,
and we
yeah.
both got red shawls, and we were just like, like just we went on the swing multiple times and like rides multiple times. Like we were so in that inner child, and I mean, it hasn't stopped. I don't, not for you, and definitely not for me. It's getting stronger. So I love that you mentioned that.
That's right. It was right after we started working with the Amanita, and,
Yep.
and yeah, we got these red capes, which make me think of the Red Riding Hood. They were this red
Totally.
alpaca capes, and very much the Amanita is this red color too. Also,
Yes.
the red color in my life. I have so many more red clothes, and I've been so attracted to the red. It really feels very much vital energy, the Amanita.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I would drink it in the beginning, I felt just this broth, like very nourishing um, broth that I felt just so much vitality was coming through. So that red solar energy color. And yes, I know it's of course it was right after we started taking, we went on those rides, and that was just so fun and had the inner child. So it's this quality of more innocence and magic and wonder and lightness, not to
Mm-hmm.
um, take things so heavy and seriously. And even when some challenges show up, and even working with the shadow, I've also had still shadow dreams with Amanita, yet there is a lightness quality to it where now I wouldn't wake up with the dream feeling all heavy.
Mm.
Afterwards, there'll be a deeper understanding of the lessons of what it's being shown to me, and just like a sense of more easefulness within my being, where before I could feel the shadow work dreams could have like a heavier quality in my body and kind of take me over more. So yes, this childlike wonder essence definitely has been enhancing more and more and more with the Amanita, which I'm so grateful for. It just brings a whole different quality to life. It sprinkles
It
that
really
magic
does.
fairy dust,
It
and again,
does.
it's so subtle. It's incredible
Mm-hmm.
how subtle it is because of also the consistency. I've been taking Amanita on and off for the last 2.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been this subtle consistency progression of creating just these deeper shifts and repattering my whole system, truly,
Mm.
on many levels.
Mm. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. One of the things I'm thinking of when I'm listening to you, well, there's two things. One is because you work in the field of, that deep remembrance. Like, I just think that is just, I love that.
Mm,
And everything you're describing, for me, knowing you and also sharing that way of living, of following the nudges and all these kind of things, do you feel that is our design, and that this, mushroom, I mean, there's many entheogens, but like this mushroom, do you feel that it's just helping you remember how to use your instrument to organize and orchestrate with life?
mm, mhm. Definitely. As you were speaking, I had this visual again of Alice in Wonderland.
Mm,
As she's walking, and there's definitely the Amanita there in the woods, and then there's the Mad Hatter with the tea, and she goes through her whole journey of really, I feel the Alice in Wonderland is the journey of remembrance. It's
mm-hmm,
another expression, adoration of it. And it seems I was actually just talking about this. I think it was yesterday, how this forgetting and remembrance and forgetting and remembrance, and that's been shown to me multiple times. And I'm like, oh, maybe, just maybe, consciousness, source, whatever has created this life, wants to experience itself in this multiple forms and expressions and adorations and through the senses, through just multiple layers. And and maybe, just maybe, it is part of the divine play is to forget itself so it
Hmm.
can remember again. And then it's this hero's journey of, it's like, then really our life becomes this grand movie. Just, could be drama, it could be romantic comedy, I don't know, it could be all of it. To me, it's like the full spectrum of all the
It's
genres
all of
of
it.
movies, right?
It's all of it.
So, I mean, imagine if we were just like fully embodied in that remembrance. I mean, everything will be just so, in a way, harmonious. We'll just flow so
Hmm.
easily through life because we're just in that creatorship and like, oh. So there seems to be something to that forgetting and remembrance dance, that through this friction, through this alchemy, through this chaos and order, that it's part of what kind of fulfills us in a strange way and keeps things interesting and exciting and alive. And because it's, if we knew the script, it just would, if we knew how the movie would end or how would it be, I mean, I don't know, maybe it won't be as it's exciting, or I don't know, there's something to that forgetting and remembrance. And with the Amanita, absolutely, I feel it is one of those sources that can help us connect to our essence,
Hmm.
to our blueprints, to our divinity, to our magic, to beyond of just this physical, what we perceive, which ultimately it is existing. It's just the levels of how deep we can tap into of all that is beyond of what we see, which it seems at some point in time maybe that was like a very natural way of us to be psychic and to have these abilities. Something
Yes.
else, maybe we overuse, abuse, the power. It doesn't matter. What
Mm-mm.
to me is like, okay, well, at this point in time, there are these different allies along the way
Hmm.
that can create conscious shifting in our being and perception, and especially I just love that it's in such a subtle way. So many things like nowadays with plant medicines and just just different radical tools that are also beautiful, but there's just something so sweet to me about Amanita that can be in such a gentle and subtle way, yet with the consistency, can it can be so powerful and deep at the same time. And to me, that's like the sweet balance that I keep noticing even um, within living life, is this sweet balance between gentleness, the subtleties, but also the power and the depth that can be. So it doesn't need to be this constant like roller coaster. And feel that Amanita can bring more of this subtle yet powerful connection.
Totally. Totally. I love that so much. That is the best way to describe it.
Mm.
I feel too that it's so interesting because I feel that the subtle language is actually in many ways, the language of life. You know, it actually, and this is the other part I wanted to ask you about, Mila, because you were mentioning the red, and I, in my experience, I feel like when I think of the red, I think of, the root, right? Like our energy center is often exemplified as the red center. And I mean, there's something so compelling about, the Amanita literally is made to compel humans, in my opinion. And this red piece, this red part, my experience is that it's helped me release a lot of fear that was in my system and have a sense of safety in the world. And that allows for the child to feel safe, the inner child to feel safe, and to come back into wonder, come back into the awe and wonder and all of the experiences that life offers. And then also, it has power. When you think of red, I mean, think of royalty. They wear a red cape, like red has power. And so it's just cool to hear you speak about all of these things and then think about the color red and think about the level of safety. And what's interesting, right? Because there's what I would call the non-life-giving matrix version of safety, which is you get a bunch of stuff and then supposedly you're safe, right? But the soul knows better. And Amanita is going to, I think, challenge you. And yet it's going to challenge you by awakening, helping awaken these dimensions of self that allow you to have your own sense of knowing that you really, the contrast of not partaking in life because you want to be safe and partaking in life because that is where the true essence of what safety is. I don't even know what the word safety is, but I think it's unsafe to not let your soul grow. That's where depression and sickness and disease and addiction and all kinds of things happen, right? I mean, one part is to not let the soul grow. So that's not safe to let the soul grow, not let the soul grow. And so I think that's the other part about Amanita I've found really interesting is that it 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 reveals the life-giving matrix version of what safety actually really is.
Mm. Mm. Oh gosh, I can speak so much on that because that's been the biggest thing in my life the last pretty much those 2.5, 3 years since I finished it. All about the root and and you're thinking healthy root, healthy tree. We have to get to the root.
Mm,
This is all where it starts. And this is where the unconscious, the deepest unconscious and subconscious energy resides. So yes, it goes pretty much, yeah, to our childhood, the original imprints. And of course it goes beyond, but let's just focus on this life. Our childhood and the original imprint that we have come into and that we haven't resolved. So that sense of safety you talk about, it's something we're meant to create within our own system, which means we gotta face any part in us, any traumas, wounds, unconscious, subconscious, suppressed parts that haven't felt safe. So that's been a huge work for me to face all these layers of my inner child where it hasn't felt safe and be put in situations where it may trigger that, or again in my dream state. There's been so many dreams. Actually, now that I'm reflecting, it was through this last couple years that I was shown some so-called traumas, because trauma is just something we haven't fully felt, processed yet through our system to be healed and return to love. Some traumas that I remembered from finally from my childhood. And I've been doing inner child work for like the last 8, 9 years. But that was like a whole other level. And somehow I was able to face it, witness it, bring it back into love, forgiveness, acceptance in such an easeful way. Even though those were probably like some of the deepest traumas for me. And again, I too feel so much because of Amanita and the way we'll bring it up in my dreams, and then the sense of allowance and easefulness within my being.
Did it reveal itself in your dream, this trauma?
Yeah, I had the
Wow.
remembrance, and
Wow.
then in my waking state, I'm not going to go into details
No.
with parental stuff. I don't want to get personal and expose too much of that. But yes, it was like multiple levels of being revealed in my dreams. And then I had the face to face in the waking state, unraveling of that to kind of reaffirm that that actually did happen, that it
That's
was part
amazing.
of my imagination. And then the way of the confronting happened, and then again, the multiple layers. Yeah, it's been a lot of healing with the masculine and feminine, and but just again, there was a such deeper level of acceptance and allowance um, for me to be able to witness those traumas, and I can definitely see how it is so much about the unconscious and subconscious. And I always think of Carl Jung, and until we make the unconscious conscious, it will rule our life, and we'll call it fate.
Right.
It's so much about shining the light on all these parts in us that are not fully integrated into wholeness, back into love. So anything we've been suppressed, pushed aside, shame, guilt, made bad and wrong, they gotta come out at some point, and you gotta integrate them. And that's usually is at the base of the root. And then maybe the sacral, so it's like the root, the safety, security, belonging in the world. So this is where our like fear of death, abandonment lies, which are kind of like core fears for like so many other fears that we may not feel safe in this world. It can show up in a relationship, work, money, but the core fears have so much to do with this like root sense of safety and belonging. So it's, to me, it's the deepest work and one of the most important work that is essential for a wholeness of being that feels well, like healthy and grounded into its own safety system that is not plugged in and based on the so-called external reality, because that's the illusion. As if we keep on seeking safety on something external, we'll keep coming back to these challenges and
The
disappointment
wound.
to kind of like
You'll
show
come
us
back to the
that
wound.
is not the real, that's not the foundation of safety. The foundation of safety is an energetic frequency that is also based on this repatterning, reestablishing of connections, synergy between all these fragmented parts of us that lie in the
Yes.
conscious, in the unconscious, which our dream state really shows us that. It does show our like deepest desires, our deepest fears. So I feel it's so important to remember our dreams and to really pay attention and then incorporate the messages and insight into the waking reality and notice the patterns, because we all have our own unique things we're working through, but on the base, like the essence of resonance, it does have to do, we start with the root, which is safety and security and belonging in this world, which then so many other patterns can stem from that for us to resolve, to actually feel that on a core foundation level. Because we start from the foundation, we gotta have like a stable foundation to then build upon our relational dynamics, our relating with the world, everything. We're in relationship with everything. And whatever is not healed and resolved, it will show up. So again, to weave back, because I shared
Yeah.
a lot, it's
No,
just
I mean,
the
it's perfect.
amanita, the red, the root.
It's everything.
That's been some of my deepest work in the last few years. And I want to share some dreams I had for like 2 months. It was ongoing, and it was with a former partner of mine that we actually shared a lot of karma, a lot of stuff were up for us during our relationship that was kind of triggering and quite hard to heal. And in my dream state for 2 months, and we weren't anymore together, but I was dreaming for 2 months back to back. We kept meeting in my dream state, and we kept healing things. And our conversations, our relating, it was so beautiful and so healing and harmonious. And I was actually on another partnership at that time. And it was kind of reflecting how then my communication in that partnership was also like whatever healing was happening in the dream state was totally transferring in my current partnership, which now we are just friends, but I say it's like my most successful relationship because we were have such beautiful communication, such deep honor, friendship, respect, love for each other. That I felt even like our uncoupling and now being dear friends. It's like, wow, this is what our relationships are meant to be. It's just this ways of different levels of love and relating that can keep growing and evolving in whatever they're meant to be, and that can feel so harmonious and beautiful. So I was just so fascinated though, because for 2 consecutive months we kept meeting in my dream state. And I was taking Amanita like daily at that time. It was just,
In what form were you taking it?
that was the capsules I got from
Oh,
me,
right.
which
Yeah.
is yeah, the
I take
capsule.
the capsules too. It's like, it's kind of very easy.
It's easy.
It's easy. In the winter, I'll go back to tea, but in the day,
Yeah, I
in
think
this
with the
time.
tea, at first I loved the taste so much. To me, it was so nourishing, but I think because I overdosed on it a little bit,
Yeah.
brings up that nausea feeling for me. But I used to love the tea. I hope I can get back to it at some point.
Well, one of the things I was going to ask, but I feel like you already spoke to it, was why do you think Amanita blooms and awakens our dream state? But I think you just gave the most amazing, incredible example. And again, to just really reiterate or illuminate this piece where that because there's a dreamer self, because part of this course is exploring our dreamer self. Like we know Mila as, a waking self, conscious self, but there's a Mila that's a dreamer self. And they're both you and they're both the same consciousness, but you do, like when you mention not knowing what you did last night, it's like this is exactly the
Mhm.
inquiry, the inquiry of what did I do last night, and for you to, and I mean, I got to witness this, everything you shared, about the dreams and the relationship and the transferring and this is also what I feel is really, was another question I was going to ask is, what is possible when the dreamer self isn't something over there that just happens when we go to sleep, but is actually a part, like these fragmented parts, this part of ourself that we commune and communicate with. And again, just this is really for those listening that because Mila and I both we're into the empowerment and the liberation work, because we are already whole actually. And so it's the way to experience that wholeness. Part of it is to really start to become sovereign and to start to know how to use your consciousness, the one that is supposedly sleeping and dreaming and the one that is awake, and to use the instrument and to work with life and all its signs and signals and symbols and communications so that you are a sovereign magical being, you know, orchestrating in life and creating from your true design, from your heart, from not from something that was told to you that this is how you create life and a good life. No, you get to create from your own, like you said, the blueprint, you know? And we don't know what that's going to look like, and we don't know how that's going to come to fruition. And that's the magic and mystery, and why life is wondrous and mythological and heroic journey and all of these things. And so I feel like you just gave this example of what it looks like to be in full communication with your dreamer self,
Mm.
because you were able to you know, do serious work. Like, you guys were getting stuff done, you know,
Mm.
because also that person is also empowered as a dreamer consciousness. And then how that was it, how you were able to take that teaching, that guidance, that healing, that wisdom, and have it transfer into something really beautiful, and teach you something about relationship that you hadn't learned before. I just think this is like that, and it's subtle too, because if you didn't really understand that you were working with your dreams, and that you didn't believe that this self is real, and that on a different dimension, these things were happening in real time, simultaneously, and how that teaching, guidance, intuition, understanding, subconscious, all of that could work and then create something in the three-dimensional realm that that is and was very beautiful, because it still has life and it's still ongoing. I feel like I know what you would say, but just more for those listening, do you feel that the dreamer self has a hand in creating three-dimensional reality, or what I'm starting to call reality, making reality art? Do
Mm.
you think that our dreamer self is creating, and then no matter what, and then if we come into communion with that create, wait, let me back up. So is the dreamer self creating, and is it creating regardless? And what happens in your mind from your perspective when, if it is creating and creating regardless, comes into coherence, because you use that word in your description, how you help support people, into coherence with our waking, what happens? What do you see as possible?
Mm. Mm.
Those are a lot of questions, but
Mm. I'll do my best to answer. Uh, what I see, it is all one. There's I am all of it. I'm all that I am aware of beyond. And from my experience, the more I can embrace the totality of life, the more I can bring presence and awareness and connection with the totality, meaning the unconscious, subconscious, the conscious, the multidimensional level of all that I am, which is all that we are, which is consciousness itself experiencing here, the more I am in that connection with divine source, power, light and shadow dancing together. It's in full embrace with all of it, like not denying anything, not denying any shadow, not denying any aspect, welcoming it all on the table, like in front of me, and in a way, like in my experience, it's truly like making love to all of it, because then I get to experience life in a pleasurable way where I do not deny pain. I do not deny when something uncomfortable and challenging comes to me. And instead, I can get more in my wonder, curiosity, inner child, the inner child that now feels safe to play and actually not take life so seriously, and face things and so-called challenges in a more playful way. It's like, oh, what is here for me? oh, what is here to teach me in the school of life? Like, what am I going to learn? But not like in a heavy way of that. Here's this pattern again, it's heavy. Um, Instead, it's this embrace, like bring it on, and let's play this cosmic game and let's play it in a way that it is empowered. But I have come to this experiential feeling and integration in my mind, body, soul, being human, because I choose again and again to face the fears, to go into the like sticky parts, to go into again the unconscious, subconscious, the root, the whatever has been suppressed, denied, not loved, this inner tug of war, right? And to really like take ownership, meaning like, oh, there's nobody to blame, nobody to put the finger on. It's up to me to bring it back to love, bring it back to union with the one, the all that I am. So the dream state, the waking state, who is to say which is the dream state, which is the waking state? To me, it's so oneness. It's all me. It's so me experiencing myself in these different ways. And I keep choosing to be more and more awake. Like I really want to be so awake to experiencing the full spectrum of all that I am. And this is why if I don't remember what I've dreamt the night before, I feel like I've had a blackout. And it kind of feels funny, like, oh, like I feel like I'm a little disconnected right now with part
Right.
of my psyche and with the awakefulness. And again, not to be hard on myself, it's like, okay, but like I keep having this intention, okay, let me remember my dream so I can
How
have a deeper
how do you,
insight.
I
Mhm.
apologize. How do you track your dreams, Mila, before I forget?
Well, definitely I do my best to I notice, for example, sometimes interferences that may prevent me from not remembering my dreams as well. For example, like screen time, like being on technology and screen, at least I notice the difference if 2 hours prior I haven't been on a screen, how much more deeper I can remember my dreams. So it also depends how much screen time I've had throughout the day.
I love that.
It depends if I'm going to bed like in an intentional way. If maybe I meditate, I like take time more to quiet my mind and create more spaciousness. Or if I'm going to bed, kind of just I'm tired and just kind of not have like a more deeper intentional state. That really makes a difference of the state I go to bed and I go to sleep. And it kind of makes sense because it's kind of the energy that continues on as we close our eyes and then we enter this other realm. So I definitely do my best to be more intentional with, yes, how I enter this state. And then many times I can wake up in the middle of the night and I can have one dream then, and then I can go back to sleep and have another dream in the morning before I wake up again. So it's again this training to recall and to kind of sit in bed even for a bit with the dream and kind of implement what was shown to me. But definitely, yeah, asking, inquiring, having this inner dialogue of like, please let me know the dreams, or even if I have an inquiry, like guide me, bring me more clarity in my dream state, or guide me to my next steps. A lot of times, if I have the inquiry, it will be shown to me, and it's this inner conversation, right? I like to call it a conversation with God, where I'm actually conversing. I'm actually inquiring about something. And then the dream state is the deep listening. And to me, the dream state is just another state, kind of like meditation. I can also inquire and sit in a meditative state and just allow for the listening, but not being the searching, just more allowed to be in the listening, which is a more receptive way of being.
I love that. And you write them down, you journal?
I do. I do. I'm on and off with the writing them down. I'm
Yeah.
on and off. I definitely, but I do have this, I always bring this awareness of whatever my dream was the night before, and I kind of keep it on the back of my mind throughout the day and notice again the synchronicities or what may show up. And sometimes actually even recently I had this yeah, synchronistic thing with a pomegranate. I dreamed
Mm.
that I was picking this pomegranate fruits, but they were like beyond pomegranate. It was just a sacred fruit, and I was just devouring it. It was so juicy and yummy, and I was in this dream with somebody, and or taking my whole this mystical journey. But the pomegranate showed up. Like, I think it was a week and a half later in my waking reality in the form of like I had posted this squeezing of pomegranate between your feet picture on my Instagram a year ago, year and a half ago,
Wow.
moon and talking about the shadow and like we're getting squeezed up right now and the shadow aspects are showing up, which was definitely a theme I was working with recently. So there was just this synchronicity between the pomegranate in my sleep, but then it showed up in my waking reality a week and a half later and was bringing these insights for me. So yeah, sometimes it can happen like days or weeks later, but there are these dreams that kind of are in the back of my mind that are more powerful, kind of make a bigger impact. And then the synchronicities in the waking reality, I can get deeper insights. I just bring importance to them, I suppose. I bring like importance to remembering them, importance to notice the patterns, the messages, and again in more of a playful way. Like I see it more as a game to bridge
Mm.
these different worlds and yeah, play with the messages. Even if the messages sometimes could be, just a little not as fun. There is still, if I bring this more of a lightness of again, oh, what it is here for me, what is this showing me?
It's the teachers.
Yeah.
Like I feel like the teachers and the teaching or the liberators, I keep feeling so much that things that are hard or challenging, when I unravel their riddle, I
Mm-hmm.
get set free on some level. I'm like, wow, that was such a gift. Like, well done, universe. Just,
Yeah.
I could have never orchestrated that. I could have never orchestrated that depth of freedom and and more, this, what you're speaking to, this more awake. Just as a side note, it's a little bit after 2. I have like a couple more questions, but we can also wrap it up.
Let's just go for it.
Okay. One, this is just to jump off of what you were saying earlier, wanting to be more awake, wanting that. From my perspective, as I have more access, again, because this freedom, this liberation is such a drive, the more I have access, the less I need. I'm not extracting from the world. I don't even scroll. It's like I don't need other people's imaginations to entertain me. I'm like, my imagination is creating a whole world, my imaginal realm, the awakening into the fullness of our being and the fullness of our consciousness, and not being afraid, because of fear also, it blocks us from these subtle enjoyments, these subtle, I mean, I'm going even deeper, where I feel that, there is literally a wealth currency that cannot be bought or sold. And a lot of it is blocked from us via fear, because it's a subtle wealth currency. It's the
Mm-hmm.
currency of creator and nature. And you can't buy it or sell it. But when you have it, you feel rich. And I feel that it's very much, the more awake and the more access I have to my instrument, this is the experience. I just feel more and more rich. I just feel like I don't need so much. I feel everything's are so amplified, you know, just everything becomes so amplified and incredible, even the things that are challenging. So what, you know, I mean, I feel like you already said it, but you know, would you, I think there's a lot of fear in awakening and looking at the shadow, you know. That's one of the questions I was going to ask you, but I just want to, you know, ask again, you know, I don't have to go totally into it, but I mean, like, what is your experience upon waking in your life on a daily to having more access? How would you describe your life?
Hmm. Wow. I mean, it's just it's filled with aliveness. It's filled
Yeah.
with the senses. It's filled with vibration, with buzzing, with energy, vitality, again, wonder. It's it's so much more pleasurable to feel than not to feel for me.
Totally.
I know the contrast. I know what it's like to numb out, to dissociate, distract, not to be so much in the body, for the body to be so achy because we're not tending to it and asking for more attention. I know what it's like to be on the other side. And from experience, for me, it's so much better to feel the full spectrum of whatever it is, not denying again anything, because it's all energy. It comes and goes, it moves. It's actually so impermanent. It's when if I am to get stuck on one feeling and emotion and create a story of it, that's when I can kind of spiral down and drown in it. And I know that feeling very well as well. Um, Creating like the stories and being the victim and getting into our like all like little me, the little self. Like there's the little self, and then there's the bigger self that is the human with its story, with its play, but also so much beyond that, right? Our soul, consciousness, all that is again words putting words into things that are so beyond. Yet, because I know the contrast, like I so much rather be in the aliveness of all that is, because then I'm just become this vessel for things to move through me. And then I don't like get stuck on things and take them personally. Like I really see myself as a conduit between source and the earth, and it's not personal. I'm just here as a vessel of divine expression to express. And wow, what an honor, what a just this intricate body. What, because sometimes if we just notice the little things that create us, like magic and wonder is in everything.
It really is.
In these grander ways. It's literally in the little things. Wow, look at this body that's constantly this, the way it's created, and while tasting something, like can I just allow myself to get oh, completely deeply immersed in the taste of like a peach and just take my time. Wow, the taste of that.
And taking your time. And one of the things I want to always point out is that this is all free to experience the taste, to take your own time,
The smell of
to
the flower.
smell. I mean, it's like this is free. This is the currency of wealth that is available. And one thing I will say for Mila and myself is that both of us have had to go towards each thing that we feared to get, and I don't know if it's like this in all times and space on the planet, right? You know, it's just this is right now, this is, and not too distant history, there's a lot about having the courage to go into the fear. And as you go into the fear and the shadows, as you embrace it, you get more access to yourself. You get more access to life. You get more access to this wealth that cannot be bought or sold, to the treasures, the treasures that there's no words, there's no price, there's no nothing. It's outside of what I call the non-life-giving matrix. And so this has come as a result and a consequence, but an incredibly amazing consequence to your bravery and courage to go into your fear. And that's always important to know because there wasn't something you did fast, you
Yes.
know.
My journey hasn't been, you hear the stories like quantum leaps, and I mean sometimes yeah there are these quite incredible synchronicities, and all of a sudden my life looks completely different. Yet it does feel for the most part it's been very steady progression of lessons and error and trial and yeah, going into the fear. And again, what I keep facing is that the idea of of a fear, it's so much greater and heavier than actually going through the fear experience.
Totally.
It's
I
like
love that you just said that. Wait, can you say that one more time? Just say it one more time. It's so important.
that the idea of the fear is so much greater than actually going into and experiencing the fear itself. So if we're to reflect, for many of us, I feel, how long do we spend on fixating on a certain fear? And then we create a whole reality into our brain and then body in the sensation and feeling, and the body can tell the difference. All of a sudden, our nervous system is regulated. We're into the story, the creation of it, and we're there. And that's just our own imagining. Instead of just take the action, do the thing, have the experience. And that's been my greatest teacher, is just having the experience. It's just putting myself into it and just going for it. And yes, it does take courage. It does take courage, but over time you realize, wow, this is so much more empowering and better than marinating into the imagining spheres. Like if I'm to use my imagination, let me use it, shift to something that is empowering, that is beneficial, that is loving for me. And yes, that again requires for us to repattern ourselves of like so being used to like experiencing pain or discomfort from our environment. It's like, well, there's the full spectrum, there's the pain, but there's the pleasure too. Can I open myself to this full spectrum of existence of life, meaning like I don't suppress anything or go into things. And then actually on the other side, it is more pleasure. And pleasure is just aliveness too, being in such deep connection with life, where I'm not looking the other way. I'm meeting life as it is meeting me. And yes, it does take courage, but it is inside of all of us. And it's a moment by moment choice. And it's not to like think about this grand, courageous steps. It's in the small day to day steps that creates a momentum to build more of this stamina and determination to, it's the little courageous steps that then create the bigger courageous steps. And it is so worth it. Again, through experience, we get to see that. It's so worth it because what's on the other side, it's always more freedom of our being, to be more of our authentic essence, whatever that means, beyond the constrictions of societal norms and anything. It's just like breaking through all the barriers we have created in the mind of ideas of what things are. So
Or
courage is
that's been
sure.
created in our mind too.
Yeah,
So,
right.
but
It's one
either way,
thing. Yeah.
I love that. My battery is going to die. So I think my iPad battery is going to die. So I feel like this is a good departing. Totally incredible. Everything I imagined in this conversation and more. And is there any last words or anything that you would like to say before we close this conversation?
Mm, thank you. One thing that's coming up is just this reminder, be gentle with ourselves on this journey, on this grand play that's beyond what we can comprehend. Be gentle and patient with the journey and the process, and to allow ourselves to trust the great mystery. I feel trust is a quality that we can all really cultivate and keep deepening into these levels. And it starts with trusting ourselves, meaning trusting our own inner voice, our own inner guidance, our own intuition, to trusting these little hinges that may come along the way. And when we follow them, we get to learn again through experience that we can trust ourselves, because we get to have these different lessons and teachings and guidances along the way that can make our life more alive and magical. So whatever it is for each one of you, to connect with that inner guidance, intuition, in the listening, in the receptivity, and whatever guides are along the way that call for you to help you with that. I feel it's here for all of us, and we don't have to do it alone. Yet this deeper intimacy connection with that our inner compass is always here, and we can get the support needed to bring it more into liveness, into existence, because it is already here for all of us. So with that said, I'm just so grateful for this, and to have it recorded. We have so many incredible conversations, and it's nice to have something actually that we can share. We can
We
share
can
with
share.
others. I feel it's also an important aspect of our journey, is that our journey is meant to be shared in whatever ways that comes, like the gifts, the lessons that come along the way. We're not meant to keep for ourselves. And then that's part of the beauty and unraveling, that the more we share, the more that gift that keeps on giving, it circulates. It's that reciprocity of life giving to us and we giving back to life, with our honoring, appreciation, and acknowledgement of what we're experiencing. That we're here for it.
And to just dovetail to what you just shared, which is perfect and beautiful, and I love it, is that actually the biggest courage I've ever had to have is to trust myself. So it wasn't actually so much an act or a doing, it was it's been trusting myself. It's ongoing, it's still happening. Trusting myself has been taken the most courage. So I love that you
It's
spoke to that.
funny, every time I think of the word trust, it literally comes in capital letters in my brain. It's very like trust. That's the essence.
It is. It's a tool that we don't necessarily include as part of our instrument. Trust. It's a modality.
Mm.
It's one of our tools. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mila. I love you. And I am going to say farewell now.
Yay. Thank you. What a joy.
Okay. And last but not least, I just wanted to let you know that if you are interested in the upcoming Amanita Dream Temple Awakening the Sleeping Dream, it goes from September 12th to October 3rd. It's 4 weeks. And I obviously will have all the links for you to sign up, and all the information. So, and also, I highly recommend working with Mila. She's amazing. She's mind blowing, and you will be in awe of yourself and the self that comes through and is experienced. So, with that said, thank you for your time, and I love you, and more soon.